Welcome back, and let's talk about the physiology of human lactation. The first, I want to talk about the benefits of breastfeeding. And as you've seen in the past, or you've heard in the past, there's just a ton of benefits that it comes when a person is able to lactate or a baby is able to receive human lactation. Recognizing that every animal makes milk for their own creature, this is what is going to help sustain this child and allow it to thrive. So, one of the benefits is that it lowers the risk of certain diseases and infection. Human milk carries so many germ fighting um, cells, right? And it can also mutate to fight off any other infections that enter the baby's body. So, as the baby continuously receives human milk, it's constantly fighting any environmental or virus infection. This doesn't mean that they won't get sick, it just means that they will get sick less often or it will be less severe. It helps baby feel safe, warm, secure, and loved. And this is because the baby is used to being inside the mother's womb, where it's warm, where it's safe, where they're being cradled, right? If you think of how they're in the womb, it's more like a hammock. I always like to refer to it back as a hammock. So when the baby is being breastfed, there are hormones that release inside the child's body, which helps soothe them, it helps calm them. So I invite you to use this that I got from Nick Lee, our old IBCLC from the Department of Health. And she used to call it the breastaurant, right? We're always open for business. So babies come for water, for food, for comfort. So in the essence of comfort, when they come, sometimes it could just be for a nibble and we'll talk a little bit more about it later, but since we're here, as babies feed, oftentimes it might not be for food or for a drink. It just might be just because they want to feel safe. And if they're being held and they're offered a boob, why not? They'll take it. Makes them feel good. So it helps the parent recover quickly from birth. This is because the uterus contracts as the person is lactating. And a word, the more children the parent has, the more the contractions will be felt. So some by the third child might feel that they're having a little contraction. And that's something good, even though it's not a good feeling. And again, this is because when the breasts are stimulated, there is a communication between the brain, the breast, the uterus, the brain, the breast, the uterus, and it squeezes and it contracts. And this is what allows for the excess blood postpartum to be released a little quicker. And the traditional baby hump that those that don't lactate might have a couple months later, a breastfeeding parent, it tends to shorten and it tends to the uterus tends to go back a little bit better in its place and they don't have that noticeable hump. So it's the optimal nutrition to help babies grow stronger. These are real ingredients for a real human being. So the human body absorbs it at 100%, and whatever the body feels that it doesn't need, it'll discard it through the poop. But this is a great food source for a child to thrive on, although formula is a secondary option for those that, opt to not breastfeed, or for an adoptive parent that obviously doesn't have any breast milk unless they want to initiate lactation. But when we talk about the optimal food, I just want you to keep in mind that this is human milk for a human body, and the body recognizes what's going on and it absorbs it. It protects the gut lining of the infant. So when you think about every time the baby ingests this human milk, it's massaging, it's softening, it's protecting the perfect microbiome that is in the infant's gut. So in our gut system, we have good and bad bacteria that are living in perfect harmony, and they're able to sustain and support each other. So when breast milk comes, it just adds on to that perfection. And that's where I talk about the microbiome. It reduces the parent's risk of certain cancers and diabetes. So two of the cancers that it helps protect the lactating parent is breast cancer and ovarian cancer. And this is because both organs, I dare say, are working constantly, which helps prevent radical cells from forming, which the radical cells can turn into cancer. Because it's in constant motion, because it's in constant movement, it helps decrease breast cancer and ovarian cancer. And for those that have heard before of a person that got cancer or breast cancer while they were still lactating, or although they had lactated in the past, this is just a preventative method and it's not a source to eliminate cancer from its entirety. So it's cost saving and it's never recalled. We've seen through the pandemic and a little after, I think after the pandemic, when the formulas were recalled due to bacteria that was finding them, and I feel like the world kind of shut down, and and parents were kind of distraught where they were going to find formula, which formula could substitute for which brand, and it was some hard times for us as lactation consultants. So important that a parent is able to protect and maintain their milk supply for situations such as these or any other natural disasters that can come, that can prevent us or be a block of us finding a nutritional source for our children. I remember when I had my first daughter, it was during Hurricane Katrina, and I remember seeing people displaced around New Orleans, and how just disheartening it was, me seeing parents holding their child, and the first thing that came to mind as a pregnant person was, oh my gosh, how are they going to feed their baby? I was still learning about human lactation, so for me it was still, that formula kind of mindset, and that's the thought that came to mind. How are these families are going to feed their children? They're displaced, they're walking in the street, they barely have a diaper, an extra diaper to use. How are they going to find formula and clean water? So we never know what's coming up in the next season. So it's we're living in those times that it's just important for parents to know this endless benefit of offering human milk. Now I have a cool chart to show you guys of the ingredients that goes in to human milk. Now this is very long, and you will get a copy yourself of this awesome chart. It was created by a research team in Canada, and they took, as a group of scientists, they took samples of human milk and they started to break down what were their components. And obviously I cannot read all this, but I want you to look at the comparison between human milk and formula. Now, again, human milk is made by humans, so it contains natural, organic, glycerides and vitamins and carbohydrates and fats and waters and all that source. But then formula, everything is synthetic. I know for a fact that DHA and ARA, which we produce naturally, when it comes to formula, is produced out of an algae. So what they do is that they kind of breed an algae, and then they extract their DHA and ARA and they add it to the formula, which helps the sponginess of the infant's brain. Not again as in a substitute, that is great because now this brain is being nurtured, is being fed, is being spongy. But when it comes to human milk, it just creates uh, a better outcome, if I dare say. Let's see what else about formula. So formula, their main basis is non-fat milk. And opposed to other brands of formula, you will see that they use whole milk. The major, largest brands out there, Similac, Gerber, Good Start, Enfamil, their base is non-fat milk. So the rest of the ingredients are going to come from vegetable oils. And this is where you start to see that babies have irritable bowel syndrome, or they have colic, or they have acid reflux. And it's because it's hard for such a immature gut to try to digest these synthetic and oils. So in human milk, again, human to human, you're starting to catch my drift. Human to human, they create more of a massage for the stomach. And the formula then just creates its own set of problems. Well, that's between us. But we always want to stay away from bias because we never know how our parent might feel about breast milk versus formula. So this is just for you to know. But when you talk to a parent or you provide that guidance, I want you to stay away from seeing formula, seeing formula as the enemy. Because at the end of the day, although it carries its risk, and everything carries risk. Taking Tylenol, taking ibuprofen, taking anything that is not natural to us human is gonna carry a risk. So them understanding the risk that it carries, but still understanding that this is a substance that can be an incentive or be an addition or be, the word says, right, supplementation. You'd still want to use formula in those cases where it's needed. So I want to talk about the universal truth of infant feeding. So all mammals are born with the natural ability to feed, right? Every single animal that you've seen out there has that natural instinct, sorry, to approach the parent. So if you've seen cats, if you've seen dogs, even mice, you will see that they slowly approach their mother, although their eyes might be sealed shut. They know how to approach, find its teat, and then latch on. I don't think I've ever seen an animal that has just recently delivered, or I like to use, for example, the giraffe with such a long neck. She doesn't come down and grabs the baby with her neck and then latches it on, right? No, we have this natural ability to feed. So is not designed to be biologically hard, meaning that in no point in time was infant feeding or feeding a child designed to be hard. The function of feeding is designed to provide much more than calories. We were talking about the benefits of breastfeeding. Feeding at the breast, it's far more than just offering food to a child. Again, with the analogy of the restaurant, it's open for business. We serve water, snacks, but we also serve comfort, healing, because when a child doesn't feel well, the natural suckles at the breast releases again those hormones that helps calm them down, help ease the pain. I always say it's like a shot of aspirin, and it helps prevent or help soothe those pains that the infant is feeling. And every part of the reflective feeding process has an important role. So, infants have two reflexes that are needed for later in life, for example, for walking, for crawling, walking. And you only exercise those. I take that back because you can also exercise these with bottle feeding if you're purposeful in bottle feeding, but they're mostly exercised when infants breastfeed. So if you ever seen a parent hold a child and the child feels the breast in close proximity, it does this, right? It's like moving its head from side to side. Those are that is one of the reflexes that is used for later in walking and finding balance. Another reflex is up and down. So this is when they start to search and look for their food. Both reflexes are needed for later in life. This is why when a child is breastfed, they tend to do better in movement and hand-eye coordination because they were exposed to using those reflexes early in life, opposed to lack of those reflexes due to a systematic way of bottle feeding, holding, and boom, here you go. Doesn't allow the baby to use its natural ability. And I dare say that we kind of rob them of that when we do that practice in bottle feeding. But since we're in the topic of bottle feeding, allowing the baby to naturally use his reflexes when bottle feeding will entail using the same practice as you do with breastfeeding. You want to bring that nipple in close proximity. Allow the baby to do that natural reflex movement. Allow the baby to search, and when the baby opens wide, we come in from the bottom because that's how we do when we breastfeed. Once the baby latches on, now it can have its return investment. So putting the bottle straight through, kind of like bulldozer in it, and allowing the baby to just clamp on it and suckle, not only weakens the child's ability to look for its own food, but it also interrupts breastfeeding because now the child has the expectancy of, I'm going to open my mouth and something's just going to magically appear, and then I'm just going to start suckling. So for parents that are offering both breast and bottle, I always recommend that they allow the baby to use its reflexes for eating, and then when they open their mouth, and that's the cue, like, I'm ready, same as the breast, I'm ready. Now you go in and now you allow the baby to naturally suckle. So these are some cool pictures of our mammals nursing their baby. So again, that's the analogy that I was telling you, that they find their own teat. Like, look at the whale. The whale just naturally glides, right? She's swimming in the ocean, and here comes the baby whale and just latches onto the mother, right? The whale doesn't get to shore and then just kind of relaxes there and latches on the baby. Nope, they swim in perfect harmony together. The mama bear, the mama bear just stands, and she here nursing her twins or her babies because they have multiples. So she can just stand there, and boom, here comes the beautiful cubs and then just latch on through. And my favorite, the kittens. They just find, I've had cats, and I would say I'm a cat doula because my cat had multiple litters, and it's such an amazing thing to see when you see the cats blind, just looking, 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 and mama just stays there. And then all of them starts latching, and she just kind of has like this, oh my gosh, kind of like sensation of, oh, my nipples are being stimulated. So every mammal has the ability to produce, to latch, and to satisfy their baby. So I hope to see you in the next section. Make sure you're using your workbook to write your questions. You can also use the comment section on the bottom, and let's get the conversation going.